Hey chaps, welcome back to another fantastic episode where we are now back on the XW once again, and you might notice I have been trial fitting the roof and it's starting to go rather well. I will show you how far I got. I did a little bit after work a couple of times this week just to get the ball rolling a little bit faster, so I'll just show you how far it's got. Alrighty, right, so if you scan your eyeballs across it, you'll go, not looking too shabby. I have actually replaced this front beam from under here. Yeah, the old one's sitting over there, it's all bent and twisted. Right, so I did that. That wasn't actually that hard. When I took out the original ones, the pillars sprung a little bit, but we're only talking 2 or 3 mil. Quick ratchet strap, pulled them back into a line and was able to put the new one in. I actually scribed the edge of the basically roof fabric section with a scribe to find the edges, because my theory went they were probably fairly close to each other when they were new. I mean, they're probably slightly off, but if you scribe them, even if they were bent and pulled the pillars in, they'll be pretty close if you put it back on the other thing. So, and it lines up perfectly, so I did nothing wrong. So there's that, and you can see it sitting in the gutter. Now this gutter I haven't actually taken off the little lip that's under there yet, but I have on the other side. But basically that's effectively how it's going to go. It's going to go back through the factory joins, dropped back into the groove. This side, however, has been dropped back in because I managed to get it all out. I'm going to fix this dent that was full of bog in this roof before I weld it on, because I can get under there and weld up that little hole. That's from a slide hammer. But yeah, this side's all fitting pretty good. It's very interesting how they do this. They basically just hammer it down and just fill this whole corner with weld. That's all they do. And it just welds along there. I don't think I'll get the roof on today, but we do need to attempt to remove the middle brace and the back one. But I'll just, of course, everything's play it by ear. But we're looking pretty good. And I still got, obviously, bits of the old roof sitting there, but we're all sitting pretty good. And a bit of a shame about that corner, but I did save, wherever it is, the non-rusted section from the original roof. So not too shabby. Obviously a bit of an update on everything else. Work's still going along, and probably one of the worst coupe rear ends I've done for a long time. Not the worst I've ever seen, but it's certainly up there. I know that the tail light panels that you buy to replace the factory ones are not very good, and they're not. However, customers' budgets are not limitless, and you've got to work out whether or not it's better off dealing with a slightly not 100% made panel, or spending endless hours repairing the original, which is, not only is it bent, it's actually been folded in half at some point when this whole car got smacked, but it's just in poor condition all the way around. That's what eventually made me go, nah, this thing's toasted. I normally do try to save them, but not when they're that bad. Like, it's actually been, when this car had its quarter panel, I was crushed around here, and literally you can see a fold in that panel right through the middle and one of the corners. The whole thing's been Z-shaped at some point, so it's not even straight anymore. So we're going to put in that panel, which is a rare spares one, but they're not great, but it's actually better than that one at this point in time. That one's just really bad. Now, I don't normally like to replace them because the repro ones are so terrible, but cost versus hours on repairing the original versus just putting a new one on, it's more sense. And some customers, some businesses seem to have endless amounts of money, but I don't know, I don't seem to have endless amounts of money, and neither do my customers. You do have to stop at some point in time and just be real, because hours is what kills these jobs. And you can see this one's quite bad. Look at the back corner there. A bit of a tank update for those following along. I haven't actually done a full video on the tank because, well, it seems that most people on the channel don't really like them. But that was a borrowed guard, which needed some modifications because it was folded wrong. So that's my one, which is folded correctly. And I got some angle iron. I actually gave the tank a bit of a coat of paint. Oh, and was able to put those screws in the top of the mantlet on the turret, which is looking lovely. Another detail. And we started getting some work done on the rear mudguards. Obviously I had to make these angle irons. They've got slices through them to fold them. Still, it's missing a bracket that goes down there and across here. And the rear bins, I've only got one. I'll have to get a couple made. They mount here and actually line up with the shape of the rear hull. So that's it. Oh, and I started getting the rear hinges on. They're quite painful to remove and fit. So progress. But once I got the rear hinges on, then we can get some rear doors cut. I've got this piece here, obviously over there. I'll be going to Victoria, I'm dying. I'm going to Victoria in the tail end of November / December, right as it changes over. And my good friend out there has this piece, an original sloped piece for the back, which will need a little bit of work because it used to be a dozer blade at some point on a tractor. So it's an original piece that was then turned into a dozer blade and has been pulled back apart. So I'll be able to put an original piece there, and then I've got my rear deck there, and way over there is the intake, and I've got to fit that piece of armour there up here, put the mufflers on, put the mudguards on, put the rear bins on, finish welding up all the things on this side, put the grouser racks on, put some plates on the top of the hull, make another pistol port for the back there, do all the detail work, and hopefully I'll get it all done before Corolla next year, which is only 5 months away. Oh, and I was shaping some of the tyres with some urethane, and they're looking not too shabby. That's sort of where I'm going with them. They will not be perfect, but they will be better than that. And on the other side there's no rubber, so they'll be better than that again. But she's all looking pretty darn good. And I've still got to wire up the lights. So the wiring's in, these are all wired up, they've just got the wires poked down just hanging inside the tank. So I've got to get this piece back off temporarily and wire it into the fuse box so that I can flick a switch and the headlights work, which will be cool. But it's starting to look really good now, it's all one colour for those playing at home. Bit of a tank update for everybody who's been following along. I do have a Patreon, XA Coupe Guy, and when I do tank stuff, because I have taken a bit of a break, but when I do tank stuff, all of my tank work from the very beginning is actually on that page. So if you wanted to follow and support me and my stupid life choices, not stupid, but not terribly financially beneficial, yeah, so if you wanted to support the build, I'd love that. But yeah, XA Coupe Guy, Patreon, and you can see this from the very beginning to now, and any updates. Right, so I'm going to have to duck out briefly and go look for some parts at You Pull It for young Mr. DJ, and then I will see you back in a jiffy where we'll have to take the roof off, slip it forward, and then have a look at the rear beams. So I'll see you back in an hour. So yeah, so I've got DJ's oddball looking distributor cap. I don't really know what the story with that is, but it's definitely different, and that's no rotor button I've ever seen, but the things you do for mates anyway. So right, we're progressing along with this. I pulled the roof off, shifted it forward, and I'm getting these bits out, and I've started on the other side. If you look over here, belt sanding out the spot welds because, well, that's how I feel today. And got this piece out. This goes in there, pulled that one out, I'm going to use 2 new ones, well, not new ones, but nicer ones I've got already lined up. Is this thing focusing? Yeah, I think so. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's that done and separated, and I'll clean up all these edges, and I'll do the same on the other side, and then we can get the new one of these that's all cleaned up and not bent in and looking good. Alright, so that's back in and looking pretty good. The welds aren't amazing because I thought it was a great time to let my better half do some welding practice. But not amazing welds for a first timer, but structurally strong, so that's all that matters. And looking pretty good. Thing I'm doing in this video is replace this center beam, which, as you can tell, is about as smooth as an ocean. Very, very wavy. So we've done the rear, we've done the front, got to do the back, and then that's about it for this video. Should be fairly straightforward. It's only tacked in, oops, there, 2 tacks on either side, and that should come out, and the new one should go in, and then I'll put a little double urethane to put that new, well, the non-wrecked felt on, and I'll just unscrew the wires for the interior light, and we should be giggling like a fat hairy spider. Alrighty, that's the roof pretty much all repaired. I had to split some of the seam across there, straighten it and then weld it back together, but yeah, that's sitting there, a much straighter center beam, back's replaced, front's replaced. We're just going to sit the roof on, see how it's looking, and call it quits, I reckon. Alrighty, not as an informative video as last week. I think I was just tossing up between trying to get it done and getting it, you know, doing a video and getting it done. So I hope you like this video. I was thinking about because a lot of the people I follow, like some of my favourite channels is obviously El Jefe's Chop Shop, Automotive Carnage, Peter Anderson, Fat Rides, Bam Bam Fabrications, Fence Post Rusty Goats. That's a mouthful. They all have like names for their cars, like, you know, like I think Bam Bam, he's got Jigsaw, and you know, a few people have names like that for their cars, and I think I'd like to find a name for this car for the channel, because I'd like to do some merchandise soon. Haven't quite figured out how to do that yet, but I wouldn't mind putting this car on a t-shirt and actually naming the car and sort of, you know, being able to help get some merchandise out there so you guys can enjoy it. But I mean, if you think of a good name for this car that's appropriate, sing out, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if it's good enough, I'll pick some good ones and maybe do a poll and then work out the name of this car. I haven't quite worked it out, but I think that would be cool. But yeah, I think the roof's fitting quite well. Just got to trim off the last little bit in that gutter of the old roof, and then that's pretty much it. Just finish up a couple of repairs, but all in all, this is not going to look good on camera. But anyway, I love how snug that centre beam is to the roof. It's got the padding in there, everything's looking beautiful. Yeah, even though it's had a car on its roof, it can be saved. I thought to myself the other day, just because everybody else thinks it was stuffed doesn't necessarily mean it is. And I also have come to the conclusion that if a car has a crushed roof, it's not always the end of things. As quite clearly evident by the fact this is nearly fixed, and I did Peter Anderson's. So, you know, crushed roof, not that big of an issue. Obviously you still got to get another roof, and I do have to thank the person who I got this from, who is a viewer, for chopping up the car that he did, because it's allowed me to fix the roof of this thing. So a big thanks there. The front beam is out of the roof that this came from, the middle beam is, but the rear beam came from the XY that I chopped up. So the roof is made up of two different cars. So the roof, by the time it's finished, so this car, the roof and the back half, 3 different cars on the roof of this thing. Kind of funny. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I think I will see you on the next one.